Hi everyone, this is my first video, and the reason behind this video and the videos to come is to share with you guys God's Word and what God has been teaching me and showing me through His Word. He's been teaching me a lot of things, showing me things, revealing things to me, and I just want to share with people, with whoever comes across this, whoever is seeking to be in His Word, seeking to be enlightened by His Word, by who He is, getting to know Him more, or just seeking encouragement, seeking hope. And I hope that that is um, something that someone could take out of this. So, as I was reflecting and thinking about what would be the first thing that I talk about, and I thought, what better than to get into Genesis chapter 1, the beginning of the Bible, first book of the Bible, the introduction to everything, the introduction to God, God's creation, God creating the universe, creating the heavens, creating the earth. And um, as I was reflecting on this and thinking about, well, how does this apply to my day to day? What is my takeaway from this? And really, my biggest takeaway is that God's creation reveals God's character and God's nature. So I believe that God reveals himself through a couple different ways. And one is through his word, the other one is through people, through situations, and through nature. And so we're going to talk about, how does God reveal himself through nature? What does nature say about who God is? So I was going to read a few verses from Genesis chapter 1. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Starting with verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, there was morning the first day. So as you go through Genesis 1, it's going to tell you what were some of those things that he created. The first thing that he created was light, and then he created the heavens, and then he created the sun, the moon, the stars, the universe, the earth, the land, the water, the seas, the animals, the plants, the vegetables, the fruit. God creates all of these things, and then God says, "Well, there's still something else that's missing." And it's verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Verse 27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." And then as you go through towards the end of the chapter, verse 31 says, "And God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good." So God created all these things, and he called it good. His creation was good. And in Genesis, we see a God who brings structure from chaos, light from darkness, and life from emptiness. God spoke and creation came to be. God wasn't trying to figure out this formula. He didn't need he didn't need these tools or this mathematical equation. Like, he didn't need anything. God spoke and creation happened. Nature obeys his voice. As you see the structure by which everything was created, it has no choice but to just obey his voice and obey him. And so, what does it say about God? Well, it shows us that God is a God of order. That same God in Genesis is the same God today. He's the same God that speaks order into our chaos. It's part of his nature. It's just it's simply who he is. God is also an intricate designer. God is a detailed orientated God. God creates the stars and the universe and the sunset, and it's so beautiful, and there's such a beautiful design to it. But not only that, but um, the the complex of nature, and like for example the sun, and how the sun is in that perfect spot. It's not too close, it's not too far away. And the purpose for the moon, and the purpose for all of these things with nature. But then take it a step further, and if you were to study anatomy, you were to study biology, and how complex even the human body is, and how everything has its connection, everything it has its design to work towards what it needs to do. If you were to study the brain and how complex the brain is, and brain cells and just everything, there has to be an intelligent designer behind that. It cannot be simply random. How could it be random? And as I was reflecting on this, and really, I, my takeaway from this is that God intricately designed you, and He designed me. That means that He designed you and the plan for your life. So whenever I feel anxious and I wonder if God is in control, I come back to Genesis chapter 1. And that and I remember that, if He created me, then that means that He has a plan for me. If I feel overwhelmed and I feel like my life is chaotic, then I can turn to God and trust that He will make things right, because God is not a God of chaos, He's a God of order. And so for me, it was kind of like a slap in the face of like, well, if I believe in this God and He is who He says He is, then how can I be worried about these small things? How can I be worried if there's a purpose in my life? How could I be worried if God has someone for me to marry, if if God can pay off the finances for this bill, or if God can work out this circumstance that's going on? um, how could I be worried about that when all I need to do is just to trust Him and to believe in Him, believe that He knows best, but to believe that He is in the details. God is not a God that is distant or that is separate from the details, but God is in the details. So if God takes care of all of His creation, God takes care of the animals, He takes care of the plants, how much more will He take care of you and me, that we were created in His image? And that really encouraged me. That was my biggest takeaway from this. And so I hope that it encourages you too in some way.